Argentina's left vows resistance. Javier Milei sets out sharp budget cuts. Argentina's powerful left has vowed to fight austerity measures set out by the new maverick libertarian President Javier Milei after his government pledged to halt new public works, half government ministries, and slash subsidies in an attempt to balance the budget next year. Union leaders called urgent meetings as Milei announced more details of his shock therapy plan, while Axel Kilikov, of the governor of Buenos Aires province from the left-leaning populist Peronist movement, promised, "We are going to fight boldly. We'll have to be much more creative and much more militant." Malay's new government will reduce transfers to political or to provincial governments, increase import taxes to 17.5%, and restore personal income taxes cut by the outgoing government, according to announcements on Tuesday and Wednesday, as it pushes to quickly eradicate the estimated budget deficit of 5.2% of the GDP. Union founder and campaigner Juan Grabos described economic minister Luis Caputo. So this is normally, guys, why too I don't want to do like full world news that much because I'm not very good at it, but we have been reading this a little bit anyways. We've been going through and following up on what's going on here, so I figure this is a good read. It's absolutely killing me trying to read everything, but it's still, I think it's still useful information, so we'll do our best to get through it. Union founder and campaigner Juan Grabois described economic minister Luis Caputo as a psychopath on the verge of massacring his defenseless victims. He said on X, "Do they seriously think people aren't going to protest? People won't allow themselves to be led to the slaughter." Malay's government argues that the reforms are badly needed in the face of persistent deficits. The country also faces inflation expected to top 200% this year, empty government coffers, and looming recession. Inflation is going to kill more people than anything else. That's more important. I don't know if your country is going through like hyperinflation, almost like, well, that is hyperinflation to the point where it's 200% over the year. There needs to be extreme measures because a lot more people are going to die if inflation doesn't get under control. Presidential spokesman Manuel Adorni told a press conference on Wednesday, this government has not been left a patient with a toothache. We have found a patient with invasive care on the verge of dying. Malay's plans won a cautious endorsement from financial markets as his government revealed its plans for the crisis-hit economy, beginning on Tuesday with a currency devaluation of more than 50%. Argentina's sovereign bonds rose the most for 2 years after Caputo announced a list of economic measures, with the benchmark 2035 bond adding 1.3 cents to the 34.9 cents on the dollar Wednesday, according to Bloomberg. In a pre-recorded television message on Tuesday evening, Caputo dwelled at the length on dire state of the economy, but was short on detail. The message was delayed several times, with local media reporting that it was being re-recorded. There is no more money, Caputo said several times during his address. After campaigning on a pledge to take a chainsaw to the state, close down the central bank, and swap out the peso for the US dollar, Milei quickly pivoted to economic orthodoxy once he had won the election. Economists described the initial measures that followed his Sunday inauguration as relatively conventional set of spending cuts and tax rises to balance the budget. The IMF, whom Argentina owes $43 billion, was quick to welcome the bold measures, but some economists expressed disappointment that Caputo had not gone further. Carlos Laconin, a former president of the state-run Banco Nacion, said his plans were milder than expected. So far, he has just swapped a chainsaw for the blender. A breakdown provided by the government on Wednesday estimated revenue-raising measures would yield 2.2% points of GDP, while spending cuts would deliver 2.9% points, moving the overall budget next year close to a balance. The fiscal adjustments is aggressive, though risks surrounding execution remain in a difficult political situation, as analysis at CD. Keeping capital controls Keeping capital controls for longer may also be helpful to manage short term. Argentina has artificially fixed the peso's exchange rate since 2019 and created a complex web of controls and taxes on imports and exports. The Milei administration aims to phase these out and unify the exchange rate, but says it needs to move gradually. We're almost done the article here. We'll get through it. Milei has already warned that the coming months will be worse for Argentines before the situation improves. Analysts at JP Morgan predicted a recession next year, with GDP falling by 3%, and add that risks are skewed to the downside. With more than 40% of the population in poverty, the government announced it would try to offset the impact of the spending cuts on the poorest by increasing the value of food cards by 50%, and doubling child benefit payments. Payments from the biggest welfare programs will be frozen at 2023 levels. Leahy's government faces big challenges in winning legislative support. His La Libertad Avanza political movement, founded only 2 years ago, is far short of a majority in Congress, even after forming an alliance with the former president Morocco Mercari's conservative pro-party. Leahy's spokesman promised on Wednesday that the central bank would stop printing money to fund the deficit, but economists said there were still questions about whether it could successfully deal with a pile of more than 20 billion of short-term debt issued to local banks, and how Argentina would find 4 billion it needs to pay off the IMF and bondholders by the end of January. Honestly, the inflation is literally a poor person tax. What it says when people are starting to print more money to pay debts is that our comfort is more important than our people's comfort. It can come off in immediately as as something generous. So a government can print a whole bunch of money, spend it on the people, and the people are like, wow, this is amazing. We have a bunch of stuff going on in our economy. But the big but is it's bad for the economy. All they did was went into the spending power of the country and diluted the spending power, moved that spending power from the people and put it into the hands of the government to then go out and spend in the economy. And most of the time, the government is actually really bad at being efficient, at creating a strong economy. You want the companies inside your economy, you want the people inside your economy to pay for what they need. So how this isn't seen as evil, it probably even is too. These people are called out for it, but how you can just, how any country can do this, I don't know. Our country does it. United States and Canada, they do it too, but not to this extreme level where you're pushing 200% inflation. It's an evil tactic, but something that people do on the regular.